Hello, in this video I want to talk about these two adapters there for one of these. This is an nRF24L01. It's a wireless radio transmitter, good for sending signals between two microcontrollers. And it has basically 2 rows of 4 pins. So when you're using one of these, you can't stick it on a wireless breadboard because then it actually connects adjacent pins together, so that doesn't work. It uses the SPI, the serial peripheral interface, for communication. So it has a number of pins that it uses. So if you have an Arduino, this is an Uno clone, and here's one of these nRF24L01 transceivers, then usually you have to connect it something like this. And so there's 8 pins under there. And then they have to connect to various places, and they don't even go in order, really. I mean, here's ground, and then red is for the 3.3 volts, because this uses 3.3 volts. And then the orange goes to pin 8 here. I'm using the Radiohead library, so it uses pin 8, and then it doesn't use pin 9, but then the next one, yellow, uses pin 10. And then the next one actually is over here, pin 13. And then it's pin 11, and then pin 12. This pin is not even used, so this is just a loose wire here. That's for the IRQ pin. So this wireless transceiver can be used for pretty reliable wireless communication, but it's not quick and easy to use. So that's where these adapters come in. So I have 2 different versions, and this one I made first. But then I added a voltage regulator here. So let me just kind of show you what's on here. So you'll notice that there are 2 rows of 4 pins. So that makes the socket for the wireless device. So it can go right on top like that. And then there are 7 pins here along the bottom. And so on an Arduino controller, microcontroller, let's get this one here. So there's a space between pin 7 and 8, and then these can go in starting at pin 8 all the way to 13, and then ground is the next pin. And then this adapter has this jumper wire, and that connects to the 3.3 volts. So they are much faster and easier to connect. Also on here, so there's a couple things on here. So the wireless transmitter can require some peaks of current sometimes, and sometimes that's the boards can't supply that fast. So most adapters, if you buy an adapter, it will have a capacitor on it to kind of store a bit of that charge, and then when the module needs it, then it has that extra bit of charge to maintain power to this. There's also a jumper connector here at the top, so that comes off. And basically, when you plug in the module, this pin right here is the CE pin, the chip enable pin. So that's connected to this pin here. And then this one here is connected to what would go into pin 8. And so in the programming, if you needed this for something else, for whatever reason, then in the programming you can change, which pin the microcontroller uses to communicate with the CE pin. So on this adapter, then you can then take the jumper connector off, put in a wire, and then connect that, whichever pin you need. So you have to change that in the programming so that the microcontroller, the Arduino, knows which pin you want, but then that would work. And so then that pin 8 could be used for something else. I mentioned pin 9 isn't used, so if you needed that for something, there's a row of female pins here. And so you can connect wires into those female pins to connect to these Arduino pins if you need that. The last pin on here, this is for the IRQ pin, which would be this one here. So not a lot of projects use this interrupt pin, but it is made available there through that one pin on the side here. Okay, so that's this adapter here. This one is sort of my version 2, very similar, but it has this voltage regulator, AMS1117. It's a 3.3 voltage regulator. So if you were to plug into, let's say, 5 volts, and you know, these microcontrollers, they work typically on 5 volts, then this voltage regulator will bring down the voltage to 3.3 volts, and then you won't damage your transceiver. There's a switch here, so that allows me to then use this voltage regulator, or if I am connecting to 3.3 volts, then I don't need the voltage regulator, so I can move that switch over. This yellowish component, that's just a capacitor that helps with this voltage regulator. So that's all that's for. And then here, this one has 2 jumper connectors. And so the again, it allows for the CE pin to be changed from pin 8. And then the CSN, I believe it's this one here, that connects normally to pin 10. So you could change that. And that you may want to do, because that is a special pin. That pin 10 is a PWM pin. So if you're fading something, or you know, fading LEDs or a motor or something, then you may want that for that purpose rather than using it on this wireless transceiver. Okay, so 3.3 volts right there. The last thing is if you are using a Nano, so it has a different pin arrangement. Here, this last pin here is pin 12. So 8 to 12 is here, but then pin 13 is over on this side. So most people, when they use a Nano, they use it with a breadboard. You know, they plug it in, and then when you plug in your components, you plug it in adjacent to the pin that you want to connect to. So if you want to use this adapter for something like this, then just make sure that you bring it back 2 positions and then move it over as far as it can go to that side right there. So then here, pin 12, there's 2 empty slots. These 2 slots are empty next to pin 12. So then when you take your adapter, plug it right in. So it's all the way from the front, all the way over. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is all plugged in here. And then the next pin is pin 13. So I can plug into that female header and then come over here to pin 13, just like that. If I'm going to use 3.3 volts, then that's actually right next to pin 13. And then the last pin here is ground. So let's use a black wire. And so then if you're using the ground rail, you can plug into that. Or there's a ground pin right here. So just like that. So not as quick and easy as with an Uno or a Mega, but you can still use it with an Arduino Nano. Okay, so let me show you. You see, I'll use this one here. So here's my adapter. By the way, these also work with, this is also an nRF24L01, but it has this longer antenna, so it actually has a better range. I'm just going to do a demo right here, so you don't need a big antenna like this, but just to kind of demonstrate. So same thing. It plugs into my adapter. Okay. By the way, if you were to try to connect it backwards, it wouldn't fit, because whether you're using this one or this one, that would extend below the bottom of the board, right? So you can't really put it in backwards. So here, goes there, and this goes into 3.3 volts. So V in, ground, 5, and 3.3. So there we go. So like I said, I made these to work well with the Radiohead library. So if we go to the computer, so now if we go to the computer here, so this page here, the airspace.com this is the Radiohead library, right? So this is programming for different microprocessors and wireless transceivers. Here, if you go to this page, this is where you can get the coding for it, and then this whole website, it kind of is some of the documentation for it. Okay, but if you save this zip file somewhere on your computer, when you come, where you can find it, if you open Arduino and go to Sketch, include library, and then add zip library, and then if you navigate your way to wherever you saved that zip file, you can open it there, and it will add the Radiohead library to your set of libraries. And it has a number of examples. If we come to examples and we come down to Radiohead, so it works with lots of different radio transceivers, but here we want the reliable, the nRF24, because that's the one that we're using. Okay, and we open the client sketch. So here it is here. And so we can just upload that to the Arduino. So what do we got? Arduino Uno, and it's on COM port 9. So we can just upload. And then we need the server to actually receive the signal. So instead of opening another example from here, you need to open a brand new instance of Arduino IDE from scratch. So that's what we're doing right now. And that allows us to actually see what both devices are sending. Okay, so it opened the same sketch here, this client, but what we want is the examples. And go down to Radiohead again. And this time we want the server sketch that goes with the client sketch. There's Radiohead. Oh, here it is. Server. Okay, so this is the one we want for our Nano. So we want tools, Arduino Nano this time. This one has the old bootloader on it, so we have to put that on. And then COM port, it's not plugged in at COM port 6. And 6. And then let's upload. So while that's uploading, the client sketch, it sends this message, hello world. And so then our server will receive that, and it'll send an acknowledgement back. And the acknowledgement is here, and hello back to you. And if it doesn't get that, then it'll send a failed result here. Let's plug this back in. $13 and so let's have a look here. So let's open the COM port here. So this is our server, and it's sending and then hello back to you. So it's actually getting a response, all right? And it says here 0x2. So the 2 is the address in the code for the server. And if we come open to the server side, COM port 6. So here it got a request from X01, and if you look at the code, the Arduino, our server, the address is 1. And this is the message, hello world. Right, and then just to kind of show you, if I unplug it, no power. So now the client is getting send to wait failed results because nothing's receiving the signal and sending a response back. And if we plug it back in, hopefully it picks up. There, and it's picked up again. And hello, back to you. Oh, hello, yeah, back to you. Right, so that's it. So those are my adapters. It makes it so much easier to work with these radio transceivers. So if you are, curious how I put it together, go ahead, have a look at the Instructable. I'll put a link in the description. There's the mess of soldering on the back. But the Instructable will show you how I connected all these things together. So what pin goes where. But yeah, it makes it so much easier to use it. All right, thank you.